5 SUVs. 5 completely different answers to the same question. The question isn't how do I get from one place to another. If that was the question, any of them would be overkill. The real question is, what do I want the world to think when I pull up? And each of these vehicles gives a different answer. Some are loud about it. Some are quietly devastating. One of them looks like it was designed on a different planet. So today we're breaking down the 5 most talked about luxury SUVs on the road right now, what they actually are, who buys them, and which one wins the crown. There's no wrong answer here, only more interesting ones. First, the Cadillac Escalade, the one that started the American luxury SUV conversation and still shows up to remind everyone it hasn't left. Starting around $81,000 and climbing past $105,000 in the platinum trim, the Escalade runs a 6.2-litre V8 with 420 horsepower or an available 3.0-litre inline-6 diesel if fuel economy is something you occasionally think about. 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds. Body on frame. 120 cubic feet of total cargo space in the standard wheelbase. 144 in the long one. Here's what the Escalade actually is. It's the original American statement. Before the G-Wagon became a streetwear accessory and before the Cullinan existed, the Escalade was the vehicle that told you someone had arrived. It was in every music video. It was outside every stadium. It was parked in front of every event that required people to know you were there before you walked through the door. Who buys an Escalade today? The entertainment industry veteran who has owned 4 of them and sees no reason to change. The head coach whose contract just got extended. The business owner in a mid-sized city who wants maximum presence without flying to Europe for a car. The Escalade doesn't need to explain itself. It's been the answer for 25 years. Next, the Mercedes G-Wagon, specifically the G63 AMG, which starts around $160,000 and climbs past $200,000 once you start configuring it seriously. 4.0-litre twin-turbo V8, 577 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. A boxy shape that has not meaningfully changed since 1979. The G-Wagon is the most paradoxical vehicle on this list. It was designed as a military utility vehicle. It has 3 locking differentials, genuine off-road capability, and a ladder frame built for punishment. It is also the most photographed luxury SUV on social media by a distance that isn't close. The person using it to go off-road and the person using it to get coffee represent 2 completely different relationships with the same object. Both paid the same price. Neither is wrong. Who buys a G-Wagon? The fashion executive whose wardrobe and vehicle communicate the same thing. I don't follow trends because I am the reference point. The first-generation wealth builder who worked for 20 years and decided this was the car that meant he made it. The content creator who understood that the G-Wagon's silhouette is one of the most recognizable shapes on Earth and that recognition is a strategy. The G-Wagon is not a car. It's a logo you drive, now the Range Rover Autobiography, starting around $170,000 and reaching past $230,000 in the SV long wheelbase configuration. 4.4-litre twin-turbo V8, 530 horsepower, air suspension that adjusts itself continuously, a rear cabin in the long wheelbase version that competes directly with business class, 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds in something that weighs nearly 3 tons. Here's what separates the Range Rover from everything else on this list. It is the only vehicle here that is equally at home on a mountain road, a country estate, and a hotel drop-off in Monaco. That is not a marketing claim, it's an engineering position. Land Rover has spent 70 years building vehicles that are genuinely capable off-road, while simultaneously being genuinely desirable on it. No other manufacturer in this segment has done both that consistently. Who buys the Autobiography? The old money family that has owned Land Rovers since the 70s and sees the Autobiography as the natural evolution. The executive who uses the SV long wheelbase as a mobile office and considers it cheaper than the private aviation alternative for regional trips. The buyer who looked at the G-Wagon and decided they didn't want to be seen trying. The Range Rover Autobiography is the luxury SUV for people who find most luxury SUVs a little too obvious. Then there is the Cybertruck, which technically starts around $61,000, but in the Cyberbeast configuration, the one anyone actually talks about, sits at $100,000 with 845 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, and a stainless steel exoskeleton that cannot be painted, cannot be repaired at a conventional body shop, and was not designed to look like anything that existed before it. The Cybertruck does not belong in this conversation by any conventional logic. It is not a traditional luxury vehicle. It does not have a heritage. It does not have a founding story that goes back decades. What it has is complete disregard for the rules everyone else agreed to follow. It looks the way it looks because the designer decided aerodynamics, cost reduction, and visual drama could all be solved by the same shape. You can agree with that or not. The vehicle exists either way. Who buys a Cyberbeast? The technology sector, early adopter who has been waiting for this moment for a decade. The buyer who looked at every other SUV on this list and wanted something that made all of them feel like they were from a previous era. The person who does not want a status symbol that requires familiarity with European luxury heritage to understand. The Cybertruck is status signaling for people who consider the old status signals outdated. And then there is the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, starting at $345,000. Black Badge Edition, $420,000 and above. 6.75-litre twin-turbo V12, 600 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds, which is intentionally unhurried because the Cullinan is not trying to race anything. It is trying to make every other vehicle on the road feel like it was built for a different purpose. Here's what makes the Cullinan different from everything else on this list. You cannot configure one online and expect delivery on a timeline you control. The Cullinan is bespoke by design. You choose your paint, your leather, your headliner, your rear theatre configuration, your picnic tables. Rolls-Royce does not sell you a car. They build an object to your specification and deliver it when it is finished. The waiting period is not a flaw in the process. The waiting period is the process. The Cullinan exists at a tier where the vehicle itself is almost secondary to what ownership communicates. It communicates that you do not make decisions based on price. It communicates permanence. The Cullinan buyer is not buying the most powerful SUV on this list, or the most capable one, or the most technologically advanced one. They are buying the one that requires no explanation to anyone, anywhere in any country at any income level. Everyone understands what a Rolls-Royce means. That universality is what you are paying for. So who wins the crown? The honest answer is that the winner depends entirely on what you are crowning. The Escalade wins the cultural legacy. The G-Wagon wins the brand recognition. The Range Rover wins the balance of capability and discretion. The Cybertruck wins the disruption category by default because nothing else is even competing in that category. The Cullinan wins everything that money is actually supposed to buy. But here is the thing, every buyer at every price point on this list shares. None of them bought an SUV. They bought a version of themselves that the rest of the world has to respond to. The vehicle is the argument. The road is the audience. If this breakdown was useful, subscribe. I cover how things actually work at every level, not just the top. See you in the next one.